When the Galactic Dominion discovered Earth, they thought they had found just another primitive world struggling to crawl out of its own gravity well. Another fragile species blinking into the light of the cosmos and ready to be folded into the vast machinery of an empire that had existed for more than 50 millennia. The Dominion, ruled by the Voran and their council of elder species, had seen thousands of worlds rise, kneel, and vanish beneath the weight of their civilization. They measured progress not by courage or creativity, but by obedience, and when they intercepted the electromagnetic whisper of human transmissions, television, radio, digital code, they regarded them as the dying echoes of a species soon to exhaust its own planet. But curiosity compelled them to look closer, and what they saw disturbed the stillness of their archives. A species that waged war yet rebuilt faster than it destroyed, a people who sang while they starved, who invented poetry in the ruins of battlefields, who carried fire and mercy in the same breath. The Voran could not comprehend such contradictions, and so they did what they always did. They offered an invitation disguised as benevolence, but written in the language of conquest. They sent their envoys in their golden words, promising enlightenment, peace, and a place among the stars, expecting humanity to kneel. What they found instead was a planet that listened carefully, smiled politely, and then rewrote the script. The message that came back from Earth was brief. We join as equals, not as servants. That single declaration became the fracture line in the Dominion's age-old certainty. When their ships finally arrived, descending through Earth's clouds in oceans of light, they met not chaos, but preparation. Entire nations had already united under a single council, not out of fear, but out of curiosity. The first handshake, between a human general and a Voran delegate, was recorded in every archive of the galaxy, not because it was historic, but because of what the general said. Welcome to Earth. Mind the gravity, it's heavier than your pride. From that day forward, the galaxy's story began to bend. The Dominion believed they were integrating a child. Instead, they were inviting a teacher. For 2 decades, they guided humanity through uplift protocols, granting technology and knowledge while imposing laws and restrictions meant to prevent the unpredictable spark that all primitive species carried. They underestimated how humans learned. Within years, Terran scientists were not only mastering alien science, they were improving it. A Voran plasma core could power a city. A human-modified version could power a continent. They shared medical nanites that cured disease. Humans used them to repair ecosystems and heal oceans. Every gift became a lesson reversed. When the Dominion forbade weapon research, humans turned their defense laboratories into physics think tanks, creating energy shields disguised as environmental experiments. When the Dominion restricted faster-than-light travel, human programmers deciphered the navigation equations buried in the code of their own communication relays. By the time the Dominion realized what was happening, Earth scientists had already built a prototype warp drive under the guise of a research satellite. Humanity was not rebelling, it was growing, and growth was something the Dominion no longer understood. To them, order meant stillness, hierarchy, permanence. To humans, it meant motion, argument, and relentless curiosity. As integration continued, the Dominion's economists noticed something unprecedented. Terran corporations began to dominate interstellar trade, not through force but through efficiency. Human engineers built reactors that ran cleaner and cheaper. Human diplomats forged alliances through empathy rather than coercion. The other subject species of the Dominion, timid, weary civilizations long crushed under protocol, looked toward Earth and saw something new, possibility. They began to imitate the Terrans, to question their overseers, to experiment and collaborate. The contagion of human adaptability spread faster than any virus. On the surface, everything remained calm. Earth paid its taxes, honored its treaties, sent delegates to the Galactic Senate. But beneath that calm, the Dominion's foundations began to crack. The Voran councils debated in secrecy. Some argued for containment, others whispered of extermination. Yet every plan collapsed under its own paradox, for humanity had already become indispensable. The Dominion's fleets ran on Terran software. Their commerce flowed through Terran logistical hubs. Their medicine relied on Terran genetic algorithms. To strike at Earth was to strike at the beating heart of the Empire itself. When the first real confrontation came, it was not with weapons but with words. Dr. Lena Rajan, Earth's ambassador, stood before the Dominion Senate, a chamber older than most stars, and delivered a speech that would echo across centuries. She spoke of cooperation, of evolution, of the arrogance of stagnation. "You taught us the rules of your galaxy," she said, "and we learned them faster than you expected. But now you must learn from us because the universe itself does not obey your hierarchy. It changes, it grows, it adapts, or it dies." Many laughed. Others listened in silence. But in that silence, seeds were planted in alien hearts that had forgotten how to hope. Within a generation, half the Dominion's young scientists and officers applied for posts within Terran-led institutions. The Dominion's own citizens began to migrate to human colonies, drawn by opportunity and the intoxicating sense of freedom. No war was declared, yet territory after territory shifted allegiance through trade and choice. The Voran called it rebellion. Historians would later call it the quiet takeover. The tipping point arrived with the Epsilon Prime Assembly where humanity proposed a new charter, a federation of equals, not a pyramid of masters. The Voran refused, declaring such equality an insult to the order of the cosmos. Protests erupted across 1,000 worlds. Dominion forces prepared for suppression, but when their fleets arrived, they found human ships waiting, not with weapons. Primed, but with open communications broadcasting a single phrase in every known tongue: "You are free." That moment shattered the illusion of control. Colonies that had obeyed for centuries declared independence overnight, and instead of conquering them, humanity protected them. The Dominion tried to regroup, but its admirals found their command, codes overridden, by Terran algorithms that they themselves had installed years before. Entire battle fleets powered down mid-flight, their systems whispering, "Access revoked by Earth Command." There were no grand battles, no heroic last stands, only the quiet, surgical collapse of an empire that had never imagined being outsmarted by its own pupils. When the dust cleared, the Galactic Dominion was no more. In its place rose the Terran Federation, a coalition of species bound not by fear, but by shared curiosity. The Voran were offered a seat, and to their surprise, humanity did not enslave or exile them. "You ruled through fear," said the new Chancellor of Earth, "but we lead through understanding." That mercy, more than any victory, secured humanity's place in legend. Across the galaxy, former slaves of the Dominion built monuments to the day they first heard a human voice saying, "You are free." The Federation's emblem, an open hand surrounding a star, became the new symbol of unity. Trade flourished, exploration began anew, and the Milky Way entered what scholars later called the Age of the Terrans. But even then, whispers remained. Some alien historians believed humanity had planned it all from the start, that every act of humility, every diplomatic gesture, every treaty signed was part of a grand strategy centuries in the making. Others believed it was simply our nature, that adaptability, not domination, was our true weapon, was our true. The truth perhaps lies somewhere between. What is certain is that no species had ever risen so far, so fast, or with such paradoxical grace. Where the Voran saw chaos, humanity saw creation. Where they built monuments, humans built possibilities. Within a few centuries, Terran architects had transformed the ruined Dominion capital into a living city of light. Part museum, part university, part sanctuary, dedicated to every species that had ever suffered under the Empire's rule. At its heart stood a statue, not of a conqueror, but of a teacher extending a hand to a child. Its plaque read, "To teach is to lead is to learn." The last Voran High Speaker, before his death, recorded one final message that survives in the Federation archives. His voice, aged and fragile, spoke without bitterness. "We thought humanity's strength was its defiance. We were wrong. It was their kindness that conquered us." And perhaps that was the ultimate irony. The Dominion had measured civilization by control, but humanity measured it by compassion. Empires burn quickly. Empathy endures. Now, thousands of years later, the archivist, an artificial intelligence built to preserve the memory of the galaxy, tells the story in the quiet tones of reverence. They invited humanity to join their empire, it says, its voice echoing across the halls of the Federation Museum. And humanity accepted, not to serve, but to understand. They came with curiosity, and curiosity became wisdom. They came with hope, and hope became law. They came with questions, and in answering them, they redefined what it meant to be galactic. Visitors from hundreds of species listen in silence as the holographic images flicker before them. The first handshake on Earth, the rise of Terran fleets escorting refugee worlds, the dawn of a new flag above the galactic capital. The archivist pauses, allowing the music of the cosm.